All right, let's go ahead and walk through the new 25.4 features for Autopilot for everyone. One of the key things that we're going to be releasing in 25.4 is Autopilot for Everyone Web. So now when you install Autopilot for Everyone 25.4, you can go into your automation cloud, go into the Assistant tab, and then in here, you'll be able to access A4E Web. So some specific things about A4E Web, we're still using a Autopilot for Everyone process, but we're not actually running the process in A4E Web. So this is actually pulling from the service directly. We're still using the Autopilot for Everyone widget here that you see. This will be enabled by default unless you specifically disable it using the Autopilot Assistant Web policy on the automation ops level. So as you can see, we revamped the landing page. Everything else is more or less the same. You have the chat history on the left. You can close it from here. New chat button is moved to the left-hand side from the right-hand side, and there's specialized autopilots here, which we'll go through in just a bit. The settings are over here. So here are the name, email, role, department, location that you can provide. These will be added to the system prompt. So A4E does have knowledge about that as it's responding, recommending things to you. You'll notice that we moved the translation button, the dynamic translation button, to here. So this kicks in whenever you change the default language in Automation Cloud. It will be reflected here. Okay. If you don't want the names of the automations or the names of data sources or automations to be translated dynamically, you can toggle this off. Okay. User notes, basically, you can add in personalized user notes. These will be added to the system prompt and will dictate how A4E responds or any other instructions that you provide. Data sources of the pre-response automations that we've configured, no changes here. Automations of the non-pre-response automations, so these are the ones that are recommended. You look at the arguments, confirm, and they run. This is the new settings that we have now. So you can look at all the connections that are available to you in A4E. So these are all the IS connections that automations that are available to you might use. So you will not see all the connections available in the IS catalog, only the connections that might be used by an automation or data source that you have available to you. Okay, so let's say if we only had Outlook automations available to us, we would only see Outlook as a connection available here, right? And the focus or the purpose of providing this menu was that you can go in here, set up connections whenever you want, but more importantly, you can change your connections so that next time you run one of these automations, it would use this new default connection. Okay. Developer tools, this is enabled in our internal environment, but in production, we actually hide this from end users. Okay. And then for troubleshooting, you'll notice that we moved the download logs button to just a link here. You click on it, it will download the logs. Same zip file that we had before. And then you'll notice we used to have a general feedback button. We've moved that into settings, is now located here. So when you click this, that's when you get this dialog for general feedback. Okay. You'll see that in A4E Web, there is not a exit Autopilot for Everyone button. We removed that. Okay. We still do have it when it's on the desktop, but we do not have it on the web. All right. And here's the version. So that's how you can see what version of A4E you need. All right, and basically whenever a user runs into any issues, we usually ask them to thumbs down or provide some feedback. You can also ask them to go in here, click download logs, and then send the logs to us. So that's the settings. Let's take a look at the landing page itself. As you can see here, we have the name of the autopilot. This comes into play because now we have specialized autopilots, a brief description, and then we've made the prompt input box, at least on the landing page, front and center. Okay. Here you can attach a file like you did before. You can drag or drop it in still. So like all the drag and drop works correctly still as it would before. So no changes there. And you'll notice here for our starting prompts, we've changed the layout. So you still have your department here. Before you could see all your categories. You would see like all four plus like the three, up to 3 starting prompts per category. We've changed that so that now you only see one category at a time, but you'll see all your prompts. So you can flip through them if you need to. And then we also added a save button for the starting prompts. So let's say if you did this particular starting prompt a lot, you could save it. Let's say you also like to use this one a lot, then instead of like jumping back and forth between these two, you can just go to save, and then you would have them here. Likewise, you can unsave them by just clicking on that save button again. We have a new chat history policy link in addition to privacy and terms. This one will just take you out to our documentation, showing you and just kind of outlining where exactly chat history is stored, which is in the orchestrator. All right, one of the other key things we have is a Action Center integration. So any pending Action Center tasks that you have will actually show up here as well. There's a caveat that we only pull any Action Center tasks from within the last 30 days. Okay, so beyond 30 days, you won't see them here. It's a limitation that we have on the technical side. So you can click on any one of these tasks. It will take you over to this task tab that we have now. And this is just the Action Center portal embedded, and it will actually open up the task to that particular task, right? So you can complete it here, submit it, and then it'll close that task. So likewise, you can jump to another different task. And then if you want to just see all your tasks at once, you can click on this, and it will jump over here without any particular task selected. Similar to the Assistant desktop, the Automation tab is just like the Dashboard tab. All right, from here, you could install the Assistant, so you can access A4E desktop. We would want you to do that so you have fuller capabilities such as being able to use Clipboard AI and running desktop automations, but we will go to that in another video. And then if you click on preferences here, these are the preferences related to the Assistant web, not A4E. So this is actually where you would specify just some additional functionality. But if you wanted to change, let's say, the language of A4E, you would have to go in here and then actually change it at the automation cloud level. Let's do it to something that I can probably come back to easier. Okay, and then we'll go into A4E web. Okay, so you can see here, parts of it are being translated. Okay, and then if you're in here, so this is your data sources, you'll see as they go in here, it will start translating them slowly. Yep, there you go. So if you didn't want them to dynamically translate like that, that's when you would go in and toggle this off. Okay. The dynamic translation only applies to this menu, the automation menu, and then if you run an automation that's non-pre-response at runtime, when it like shows you the automation card, when that automation card comes up, we'll dynamically translate the arguments for that card. Okay. All right, so let's go back in here. Just want to go back to English really quick. All right. So key things to note, let's say you want to, what's on my calendar today, right? And I send that. So as I mentioned, A4E Web doesn't use a robot to run A4E itself. We actually just run it as a service. You can run context grounding as well without a robot. When you're on the desktop, we're actually using the assistant and the local robot, right, to facilitate everything. But on A4E Web, we don't use a robot when you're running Autopilot itself plus context grounding queries. But when you run automations, we have to use a robot. We use serverless robots for that. The requirement for serverless robots is in any folder where an automation lives, you need to have a serverless robot configured there. We do that for you at installation time for the Autopilot folder and the out-of-the-box automation folders, okay? If you went in here and you looked at the Autopilot folder and the tools automation folders, you would see a serverless robot template set up there. Okay, let me show you. See serverless robot, okay? And then in the tools automation, you also see a serverless robot, okay? So you need to have that there to be able to say, when you run something from A4E, where does this automation run? And a serverless robot is basically a computer in our infra that's serverless that runs, okay? Why I point this out is that we ourselves are configuring the serverless robot for you for the Autopilot folder and the tools automation folder. But if a customer had another folder with custom automations that they wanted to run from A4E web, they would need to go in and provision the serverless robot as well. So key things that you need to know when you're running automations or A4E in the UiPath platform is you need to have a user license that grants you permission to use A4E, and then you need to have a robot where automations run. And so the licenses needed for A4E desktop and A4E web don't change. It could be a automation developer, citizen developer, attended user, automation express, autopilot express. Those both work on both assistant desktop and assistant web. But when you're on assistant desktop, we use your local robot to run all your automations and the autopilot process itself. But when you're on A4E web, you don't need a robot to run autopilot and context grounding, but you need a robot, a serverless robot, when you run automations, okay? The serverless robots also consume robot units, all right? So you need to allocate those to the folders where these automations will run. We are working through with licensing now to make sure that when A4E runs, it will consume robot units that will be allocated to the user, all right? Okay, so here I said what's on my calendar today uses get outlook events, right? And return back all my events, just like as you would on the desktop. The reason why this works is because all our out-of-the-box automations are cross-platform projects. So serverless robots, again, can only use cross-platform projects. Cross-platform projects primarily are built in Studio Web, and they're basically API-based. They don't have access to your local desktop, okay? A4E Web cannot run local automations or desktop automations. The reason being is because when you're in A4E desktop and you run an automation, if it needs to use your local desktop, it can use the local robot. So it can reach into your computer and do things in the UI. But when we're using a serverless robot, the robot is not running on the same machine that you're using. It's running on another machine somewhere else. And so you can't have like UI automation being used on your local computer because it doesn't have access to it. So that's why you can only run API-based automations or cross-platform automations as we call them, okay? And the out-of-the-box automations work because they are all built as cross-platform projects, all right? Once again, nothing changed here for upload, downvote, suggested prompts. You'll see here that we don't have a Clipboard AI button because Clipboard AI only exists on A4E desktop, which we'll go through in another video, all right? No other real changes for this. I think that's enough for this video. Let's go to another video for the other pieces of it.